documented in Greece. You know, homosexuality was a lot more prevalent than documented in Africa. But so, from a historical perspective, I'm obviously not as informed, but just anthropologically, I mean, to say that homosexuality didn't exist at all in all of Africa, I mean, homosexuality has been documented in animals, and homosexuality has been documented, I mean, not as something in every people everywhere. I mean, just kind of the notion that it didn't exist at all. And then all of a sudden...
are you black?
Oh, I'm sorry?
Are you black or are you white?
Am I black?
I'm asking you, are you black or you white? Because I can barely hear you, but I'm trying to figure out, are you black or are you white?
I am white, personally.
Oh, you're white, okay.
Did you hear his points? Irritated Genie, did you hear his point?
I heard his point, but this is what I'll say to any white caller that wants to call. You're exactly right. It is natural and normal for you. But see, this is where imperialism comes in, and this is where racism and white supremacy comes in. Whites cannot define for us who we are. Now, here you see them trying to come in and step to our people and tell us what our history is and what the truth is. You have no right to come in here and try to talk to us and tell us, you know, what the truth of the history is, when in fact, we have already documented the truth. We already got the book here to tell us that you are the ones that brought this to the world. So you know what? You go ahead and homosexuality
was around during caveman times. I mean,
you continue to practice your behavior, and as black people, we're going to do what's in our own best interest. We really don't need your opinion in this. You created the problem in the first place. What makes
I was born in 1980. I did not do anything.
Well, you were in 1980. Well, you know what? In 2001 or 2002 in New Orleans, a genocide occurred with black people. So plenty of things have happened.
Sir, I was not involved in that. My son is half black. It just seems to matter my race so much.
As a matter of fact, you calling up here to talk to black people to tell us what our history is, that right there.
I'm not talking about black people's history. I'm talking about humanity's history.
We're not talking about no humanity. We're talking about black people doing something.
I mean, I'm not talking about history. I'm talking about anthropology, basically.
Pedophilia and homosexuality is part of your history. That's the bottom line.
It's part of everyone's history.
Asian.
I mean, it's not even history.
I'm an African. It ain't part of my history. I know
before history was even documented in Africa. I mean, before historical texts were around.
The pyramids, and you know what? I wrote this book for black people. I really don't want to get up. The last thing I'll say is this, and then I'm really done with this European. The last thing I'm going to say to you is this. Don't talk about before anything was documented. If you go to the pyramids of Kemet, if you go with the Kemet New Know Thyself tour, not you, but when African black people go every year with Asher Akwesi and Mary Akwesi, the master teacher, and they take black people back, and he studied under Dr. Ben, and these people have been going back for years. Before there was any other documentation that anybody could document anything, before there was any other system of writing, we see the meta-netter right there that still exists.
Can I ask you this, sir? How common was documentation before?
Writing this stuff.
How common was documentation
before nobody's writing no history? Our history is right there, and you see men and women together. So go, be the European you are, call up your European friends, tell them, you know what, homosexuality is
sir.
I'm not
talking about anyone's race. All right, well, thank you for letting me call in.
Thank you for calling, Andrew. We're going to go to Ahmed. Ahmed, you're on the air with the Irritated Genie.
Yes. Almighty Allah, Master Farad Muhammad is the greatest. These are the days of Allah, His spiritual son, and the worst is still yet to come, especially to hypocrites like Farrakhan and disbelievers and these politicians and preachers. I first want to comment.
Well, I'm sorry, you can speak up, brother, because I can barely hear you.
First, I want to comment to the host, to the guest. I agree with what he's saying, and I'm enjoying what the points that he's bringing out, because I'm aware of all that what he's saying. You know, these Caucasian devils been on the planet for 600 years, and the first 2,600 years that they were in these caves and hills of Europe and practicing and doing all the things that they do. It's been within the last 4,000 years that they were set free out of Europe and been roaming the whole planet, bringing about all this just the lying, the killing, the homosexuality, and all that's devious acts that we see now. That just like years ago, black people didn't practice oral sex and all that. You know, that's only come about recently. They practice that. They promote that, just like they promote homosexuality, and just like they promote all that about dogs being a man's best friend. That's their thing. That's been their friend. That was the dog that took care of their woman when they left her in the cave. You know, and performing. She immaculated with dogs. So like I said, I agree with the brother on what he's saying, and we do need to look at doing for ourselves and separating. You know, I know that the regular listeners know that I always speak this and promote this, and the Lost Foundation of Islam under the Honorable Salas Muhammad is definitely pushing for independence and separation from all this. But my question to your guest is he aware of the international fight for our human rights within the UN? If he's aware of that.
Okay, brother, thank you for your call, Ahmed. Brother Irritated Genie, Ahmed is a follower of the Honorable Salas Muhammad, and he wants to know if you are familiar with the fight that the Honorable Salas Muhammad is making for us at the United Nations.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. They've been doing that for some time, doing that. And in response to what the brother's saying, I'd like to make some suggestions for black people. Brothers and sisters, we listening now, and, you know, it's kind of like, okay, we do see that this is happening. We know this is not our behavior. We know that our children, when we were coming up, brother, no child would talk to an adult the way children talk to adults today. Mm-hmm. We're coming apart of the scenes, like the brother's saying. We're not practicing our own cultural values, and we need to move back to some of those things. So some of the things I think that we can do in terms of campaigns, you're talking about what Salas Muhammad is doing for the human rights, and I'm saying we can also do things ourselves. One thing, this N-word is killing us. Any people that think of themselves as something other than something proud and productive are doomed for destruction. Words are created, titles are created for people, particularly when the European, this is how he does it. When he wants to destroy a group of people, he gives them a name, and associated with that name is something ugly and something that deserves destruction. The word of choice for black people was the N-word. We cannot adopt this term and keep using this term and expect that we can have respect for our young daughters and for our sons when they called N's every day and they call each other that. So I think that, in particular, if you're part of a church or you're part of a black organization or any black person listening now, this is one of the things we got to do. We got to say, you know what, let's eliminate this word from our vocabulary. I'd also like to say we got to do something else as well, because we're not practicing black culture. What is black culture? Black culture is self-respect. Black culture is when children know they respect adults. Black culture is we were always the people who like to dress our best and look our best. We need a black decency movement. We need a movement of brothers and sisters say, you know what? There's some basic standards of decency, and we need to start implementing some of those for ourselves, not looking at the American culture and what they're doing, because if we follow that pattern, we know exactly where we're headed. We're headed the same direction we're headed now. What we need to be doing is setting a course for ourselves and say, look, there's certain ways that we talk to adults. There's certain standards of behavior that we practice with one another. There's certain interaction between men and women, certain way that we interact with one another. There's a certain job that a black man has to protect black women. There's a certain way black women talk to black men and look out for black men. What are our standards, and how can we begin to implement them to do something for our own condition? Because otherwise, if we follow these Europeans. If you turn on the TV tonight, you will see the place that they're going, we do not want to go.
All right, brother, we're going to go back to the phone. Brother Jomo, thanks for holding and being so patient.
Yes, Brother Kamal, thanks for having us, and thanks for having your guest on. Brother, I just had two questions for you. One, I noticed you've done a lot of research. You wrote a book. But I noticed that the Caucasian callers, when they call, they don't seem to be very interested in trying to learn from what you can offer, I think, everybody. Instead, they ask a question, and the minute you start to answer, they start fighting you and start asking other questions on top of you. And the first question I have for you is, why is that so? I imagine you've encountered this before in doing this work. And the other question I have for you is, what are some things that we can do as black men?
Thank you for your call, Jomo.
That's an excellent Brother, appreciate that.
And real quick, I'm sorry, Brother Cuss. Go ahead and answer his question. I just want the listeners to know the number is 713-526-5738. And if you hear somebody hang up, you better try to get in because it's just not much time. So go ahead, brother.
Okay. The first reason, and a lot of times when the callers are calling, I can't tell if they're white or black. That's why I asked that last caller. Because this is the bottom line. Whites put us in this condition. Let's talk straight, brothers and sisters. We did not get in this position on our own. They put us. They built the ships and came and got us. They put us in this condition. They intend for us to stay in this condition. Whenever they hear us going in the right direction, they're going to fight it. And we might as well get used to that. We might as well expect that they're doing what they're supposed to do. The reality of it is that we got to do what we're supposed to do. Now, the brother asked the question in terms of what can we do as black men. Some of the things that we can do as black men, I just said, we talked about the decency movement. One, we got to start as black men taking a position, like just simple things. We got to take the earrings out. Black manhood has always been something that you can look at and see. And right now, the way we're behaving, you really have a difficult time here. Let's take the earrings out of our ears, brothers. Let's begin to stop effeminizing our boys. Sisters are putting the earrings in the boys' ears or raising them in a very feminized posture, not allowing them to have time with the fathers. We can't have that. We need strong black youth. We need black youth programs. We need black men to come together and organize and say, okay, we got these young boys, and they're headed towards this penal institution, and we know what they have for them. Let's give them after-school programs for the boys and the girls, where we can indoctrinate them with the ideas that we want to give them. Short of us having our own school system, we have access to our children. We need to take that time and do something with it. Brothers, stop wasting time with your children. Men not supposed to waste time with no children. You don't just have a child that you tell them things that they can use, that they can go in life and make good decisions. We need a political movement against the white sex movement. We need brothers and sisters out here who have the voice in public to stop tap dancing on this thing and being afraid to take a position and take a definitive position for black people. We are against this behavior. We don't want this behavior to continue.
Brother, let me ask you something. How do you propose to deal with people, with black people who are engaged in this behavior?
I'm glad you asked that question. The first thing, and that's why this discussion is so important, the first thing is understanding. We have to understand the reason that our people are participating in this type of behavior is because of sexual abuse. We have to address the sexual abuse issue. And so the first thing is we got to start figuring out what we can do to deal with the fact that we have a lot of sexual abuse going on in our families and a lot of sexual abuse going on in our communities. And that fallout of that, we see our sisters, our daughters at the junior high school level even holding hands and involved in this kind of stuff. So we know that it's something that's being put. We have to get back in as parents and start protecting our community. We got to start. Matter of fact, we have a series, PKV. It's a series of DVDs, and it deals with racism, white supremacy, many different aspects of racism, white supremacy. And I suggest that everybody out there look up, and you can call us at 202-207-7886. We have titles like Journey to Womanhood, which gives young girls ideas of what womanhood is about and how they get there. We have Steps to Freedom that gives specific things that black people can do, everyday people can do to make things better. We have a catalog, and once again, you can call us at 202-207-7886. You have books like this, War on the Horizon, which help our people understand what's going on so that we can make change in the community. The things we said before about what people can do, you said, how do we deal with homosexuals in our community? This is one of the hard things that we have to do, but I really want to say this to people. And you'll get a better understanding once you look at some of the catalog things that we have and everything, but homosexuals are very dangerous, particularly for children, anybody involved in that behavior. You do not want your son around any males in the family that are participating in that, or females. You definitely don't want your daughter around females participating in this. So what we got to do, and it's very hard because we love all of our people, but as a punitive measure, until our people, somebody in our family gets out of this behavior, as long as they're practicing, we got to say you can't come around the children in the family. If we having a cookout, you can't come to the cookout in the family. It's not that we don't love you, we love you, but as long as you're participating in this, I don't want you to be an influence on my son or my daughter to go into this behavior. And that would be one way to try to do something about it.